Maniacs.
GeoGearHeads.
Welcome to GeoGearHeads episode 336. Tonight we are talking about project-gc.com, one of my favorite websites. But before we get into that, I need to introduce our host, the infamous. I mean, he is infamous. If you were at Geo Woodstock with this guy, everybody wanted his picture. I'm talking about Daryl W4.
Well, because everyone wants to make those wanted posters.
Oh yeah, that's it. Wait, maybe all the pictures of you I saw were on milk cartons and at the post office.
Well, the post office, not on the milk cartons.
Okay.
Just at the post office under the most wanted labels, I think. But yeah, it was such a blast. And you got a few people hounding you for autographs and whatnot too.
A couple, yeah.
But,
it was a lot of fun to meet people that, we've only seen or only communicated either in chat or in email, and, to see them face to face and in person, because like Magnus here. Oh, by the way, we have a great guest. We have Magnus with us. I've never met Magnus in person, only in a two-dimensional image on a computer. How you doing this morning, Magnus? Very early morning to you.
I'm a bit tired in the eyes, thank you. I can feel them a bit itchy, but otherwise great, thank you. And I'm a bit jealous, to be honest, because I've only given an autograph twice. So if they ask you guys for autographs, I think you should be proud.
Maybe twice is all the time that I've been asked for an autograph. Not too many times. Now on credit cards, they ask me for my autograph all the time.
Limax wants to know if you have enough caffeine, Magnus.
I don't. I was looking for a canister of Red Bull, actually, but, well, we're out.
Oh, man.
Well, it's 3 in the morning to you. Is there enough caffeine anywhere?
I don't know. I don't drink coffee either, so but I have a glass of water. I guess the level of caffeine in that water is 0.
Yeah.
White Coaster wants to know what body parts we signed. There were no body parts being signed, I assure you. We did have a map being signed, which I think was a most unusual item we had asked to be signed at Geo Woodstock.
Mm-hmm.
But yes.
I've never signed a body part either.
Neither have I.
Oh, only a cast. Does that count?
No, that's not a body part.
No,
it's on
but
a body
it's covering
part.
A body part.
Oh.
So maybe it counts.
Oh, well.
In any case, Chris, I think a lot of people were getting confused because they're still looking for the bad cop and not Chris of the Northwest. So they just didn't know who you were.
I almost put on my bad cop what show are we on? GeoGearHeads badge. I brought it with me and I thought, no, that might confuse people. Or not.
See, I'm thinking I should change my name like once a year and confuse people. That way I can actually go incognito at the events. People won't know who I am. Until maybe I start talking.
See, Wet Coaster says it doesn't count. The signature must be on the flesh.
Oh, well then I've never signed a body part.
Then what if you push really hard on a cast?
You use some kind of deep penetrating ink that goes through the cast onto the skin.
Wet Coaster says it should be Daryl W5, Daryl W6, Daryl W7.
Nice. All right. Well, let's actually get back to what Memphis Mafia is calling one of the best tools of the trade in the chat, which is Project-GC. And we've got to start off talking a little bit about the trackables since we mentioned it last week and didn't remember exactly how that worked or what it was. And Magnus, in talking with you before the show, nothing has changed since we talked about it last, really. It's still there, it's still active, but it's not getting a whole lot of usage. Am I correct?
You're talking about our trackable rescue system, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, as some of the users might recall, it all existed firstly on a site called TB Rescue, and they was going to turn off that site. I don't recall exactly why, actually, but
basically they had lack of time and couldn't keep up with it anymore.
yeah. So we thought that was a shame. So therefore, we thought let's try to remake what they did, and we did that. But as you say, it's not used a lot, and I think it's a general issues with trackables. There's a lot of them disappearing, and maybe it's actually hard to try to save them in that way. I don't really know, but it's not used as much as I wished for.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't see a whole lot of the notices coming through because I am signed up, and for a little while I was getting them. And of course, whenever I went to the cache, there was no sign of the trackables, so it really doesn't help so much. But it is there, and you can mark trackables that you have that haven't moved in a while as needing a rescue, and it does flag people to grab them. But I don't remember how to sign up to get the alerts, because that's probably the biggest problem, is there's just not enough people getting those regional alerts to let them know that there's something that needs the rescue in their area.
I honestly don't remember how to sign up either.
Oh, sorry.
But I'm actually trying to check it right now.
All right. Well, while you're doing that, Wet Coaster is saying, or sorry, not Wet Coaster, Limax is saying he needs to do some rescue missions himself because he's just usually been marking them missing, which I try not to mark mine missing just because I want to get in touch with like the cache owner if I can. That doesn't work so well if the cache owner is in like Germany or where's the other one that I've had a few go missing? I think Czechoslovakia, where you don't have the majority of the English speakers who are placing those caches. So when I send them the message, I have to do a Google Translate, which I'm sure comes through just completely botched. And I've almost never gotten a response to any of those.
Yeah, but Google Translate isn't great, but it's good enough to get the point across. And I'm going to be honest. I called Czechoslovakia and Germany the European black hole. I mean, travel bugs just seem to disappear there.
That's very true. That's very, sometimes they'll go around and around and around, but once they go to those two countries, they never seem to move out.
Right.
They might move for years and years, but they never leave.
Yeah. Just about a year ago, I had, in fact, it was a trackable you gave me, Daryl, your little, it was a trackable small enough to fit in a film canister.
Oh yeah. Those were fun. I need to do more of those.
And that went up to somewhere in northern Canada, and it would only move 2 months out of the year. And then it just stopped. Well, a year ago, somebody said, "Hey, got it. Saw it in an event." I go, "Oh, really? You found it?" And they go, "Oh, sorry, wrong number."
Oh, you got me all excited. Something else that Magnus and I were talking about is he was playing early on with the trackable numbers and discovered how easy it is to get a new working number just by guessing, a couple of digits or whatever up. So and remember, those original trackable tags were numeric only. There were no alpha characters. It was just the numbers. I actually still have one of them unactivated back here behind me. I just discovered it.
Ooh, how special.
I kind of don't want to activate it. I want to leave it sealed. And it was one of those ones that I was carrying around with me as a demonstration of, here's different types of trackable tags. It's one of the old style tags, not the newer style one. So I had one of those and I had one of the newer style ones so they could show people, here's those tags. And of course, now there's thousands probably of different types of tags. So it kind of really doesn't help so much.
Well, I'm looking at the TB rescue portion of Project GC, and there's nothing within my state. There's no missions within my state.
Well, that's good because it means there's no lost travel bugs in Washington then.
Yay! There's one up towards Kelowna, and that's 6.5 days away.
I'm then looking at the missions themselves and
yes,
even statistics, and you can group them per country. And there are actually most missions in the United States, at least.
Well, that puts my theory to bed.
Yeah, and Germany only has half of them.
Huh?
Only half?
Yeah. So if we're going to talk about where that black hole is, I think it's in the States.
Uh-oh.
Oh, the States has a pretty big black hole. I won't argue that. But
yeah, I'm looking at those stats. I see it now per country, and the successful missions, Germany beats the US. So the Germans are actually going out and finding these.
There you go.
And you also spoke about Czech Republic. That's only on spot number 6 in the black hole list.
Oh, but that's by numbers, not by like percentage of caches or anything else. Correct?
Yeah, it's by number of the created rescue missions.
Yeah.
Or
so the Czech Republic is probably geographically much smaller too than even Germany. I don't have a map handy or anything, but
it's definitely smaller. But Czech Republic is actually one of I think top 5 at least most active countries within geocaching.
Nice.
Could even be better. I know United States and Germany are both in the top, a bit depending on how you measure it. If it's number of active caches or cachers and so on.
Right.
So they are pretty much fighting about spot number 1.
Yeah, Germany, if you go like per, the density per square mile, I know is actually surpassing the US for cachers and caching.
I'm not surprised. Then I know, if I recall correctly, I think top 6 also includes France, Czech Republic, Sweden, and then I'm missing, and Canada, I think. I think those are the top 6 countries.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Starcacher, though, is saying that there's a mission pending near Elkhart, Indiana, that he's going to have to attempt to check on the next time he heads to Chicago. So that's pretty cool that you can go and check it. And that's one of the things I liked about when I was doing TV Rescue years ago, before it died, was, oh, hey, I can run over here, get this cache that I don't have, and do a whole bunch in that area, and try to help out a travel bug at the same time. So it kind of made those weekend cache trip destinations for you.
Oh, nice. Keepers of the Cache Flow says we actually picked up a travel bug on a road trip. It was marked missing in 2014. Hadn't been logged since 2012. So very nice. Kept that one alive.
Yeah, it happens every so often. Not very often, but it does happen every so often. You still get the logs for the ones that have gone missing and you think are dead, like 4 or 5 years later. We talked about that on the last show. So don't count them completely gone, because they do sometimes come back.
I have to. I've been corrected. I said something just off the cuff, and I realized I was wrong. There is no such thing as Czechoslovakia anymore, says Wet Coaster. It's the Czech Republic. Sorry, you're exactly right. I'm just old school. I still think there's an East and West Germany.
That's the bad cop coming out again.
Yeah. And Russia still takes up 2/3 of the map.
I actually have no idea how big Russia is compared to other countries. I've never thought about it, but Russia is quite big.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's get back to the original question, which was, if someone wants to get those mission notifications, did you figure out how to talk someone through that? Where to go?
Absolutely. Well, first off, it requires that you are at ProjectGC then. And that's projectgc.com. And in the tools menu, there's a subheader saying TB Rescue. And if one visits the rescue map there, one will see a map. and with a lot of circles and some markers and so on. And all the circles are zones that others are watching, and the markers are the missions for a missing trackable. On the left side of that map, there is a pair of binoculars, which if you mouse over says watched zones. And if you click that, you expand the left pane, and in there you can create your own watch zone. Hopefully that was understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and you can do multiple zones too, so it doesn't have to be just like your home zone. You can do like one around work and one around home, and maybe one at the parents' house, one at the in-laws.
And where your wife lives, and where your lover lives, and and so on.
Yeah, your husband or boyfriend, or your, yeah.
Gonna get ourselves in trouble here.
Yeah, we are.
We're going to admit to something. We better move on.
So looking at the map, if you zoom out, you can see that there actually are very many people watching. I see the United States coverage is quite low. I guess I would guess by looking at California, for example, it would be tighter there. But it's not even close to how Europe looks. If you use that map and look in Europe, you can see that almost every square meter is covered.
Wow.
Well, I think what you're seeing in the U.S. is our population centers. Montana, for instance, there's less people in the state of Montana than the city of Seattle.
Yeah, I get that, but still, United States seems to use the system much less than Europe anyway.
Sure.
Because Germany is just crazy with overlapping circles.
Oh yeah, well, the Germans tend to be much bigger into their trackables, I think, than the Americans tend to be.
Areas in the United States that seems pretty dense is around Ohio somewhere, and around Washington, of course. Not too much around New York, to be honest. A lot up close to the border of Toronto, but then we're up in Canada. I passed the border.
Washington, D.C. looks pretty dense.
Are you saying that the politicians are dense?
Oh, yes. Well, when they're looking at circles, they're pretty dense. I'm surprised Los Angeles, Sacramento, and the Bay Area has more coverage than LA does. Now, there are yellow markers and there are red markers. What are the difference?
Oh, such hard questions. Should I remember this? I honestly don't remember. I actually have no clue. It's so long time ago since I wrote this, and I have a watch zone myself around where I live, but I don't think I've been notified for maybe not in 2 years.
I think the last notice I got.
I think it's about the age of the mission.
I was going to say I seem to remember an age indicator.
Yeah. On the other hand, and the number on the markers is the number of logs, I think.
I think if it's in a watch circle, it's yellow. If it's outside a watch circle, it's red. You're
most likely correct, sir. I think from the start they were actually colored by the H or something similar. But looking at the map, I can see that you must be correct.
Rediscovering features on the air.
Yeah. And looking at Europe, you can see it even clearer because there are no red markers around Germany and United Kingdom, for example, because they're really covered. You can see some red markers down in France, Spain, Italy, and so on.
Wow, around Dusseldorf, and I can't even read the labels on the map. It's so dense in the purple color of the circles.
Yeah, it's pretty intense in some areas of Germany. I love the Germans in that way. They are pretty hardcore on things.
Yes, they are.
All right. So if you do have something that's missing, you can, create the mission on there. And then the big thing is we need to get more people watching their zones so that we can get people actually hopefully going out and doing the rescues on those trackables. But like Starcacher was kind of hinting at, it's probably a fun thing to do when you have a road trip. Go and check if there's any caches nearby that have trackables that need to be checked on. And, that's, again, it gives you something to, help your cache selection.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yet another way to select your goal.
Yeah, because you have those times where you've exhausted all those rest area caches. So where are you going to stop, Now you have an idea.
Magnus and Darrow.
Uh-huh.
Our listeners, Wet Coaster and Limax, said, the coloring is described above the map in text.
Oh. In text. That's amazing. So when you put letters together, it actually becomes words. And that becomes sentences.
But when you have, pretty maps and colors to look at, who's going to read words?
Yeah.
Okay, I just need to open Project GC and be on the page rather than trying to remember.
Oh, Magnus, you did a great job documenting this page.
Yeah, obviously. I just didn't make a great job remembering it.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. All right. Well, let's move away from the trackables then. And the last time we had you on was over a year ago, and the big thing at that point was the challenge checkers and building them, because that's shortly after the moratorium on caches had been lifted.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it has worked out great since then, actually. There's not a lot of new things regarding it, but I think the challenge checkers has brought a lot of new users to Project GC. I'm not sure how many users we had at that time, but I can actually look it up just for the fun.
Well, and it's definitely brought a lot of new challenge checkers to Project GC. The number of challenges that I'm seeing I qualify for has increased just because there's more checkers to say that I qualify for them.
Yeah. Actually, it hasn't brought that many more users. About a year ago, around that time of the show, Project GC had 125,000 users who had used the site for at least once. And right now we're up to 144,000. So we're closing in on the 150 mark.
Yeah, it's actually a smaller increase than I would have expected with that switch to the challenge checkers on Project GC.
Yeah, same. I would guess that we went from about 100 to today's 144. But that means that most people already more or less knew about the site or had used it once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I find
it's not like the challenge checkers were new when the challenges came back. It was that the challenge checkers were made mandatory, and it's still, last I checked, only Project-GC that's authorized to do the challenge checkers.
True. I think it, for technical reasons, will be pretty hard to get a new partner for it. We'll see for future. But as you say, we had plenty of challenge checkers before then as well.
Right.
I don't remember how many, but several thousand probably.
Yeah, and of course, there's tons and tons of other great reasons to use Project GC. But is there anything that was really cool and new that we should talk about in the last year or so?
Yes and no. There's always cool things. I was actually, just when we started the show, I was going through the news from last year, and I found two things that I actually want to highlight that's pretty unique. And one of them being that we added lab caches to the profile statistics. I think we're pretty unique with that because we have a different contract with HQ than others have. So we have our private API, which we pay for. And via that, we can get lab cache data. So that should be unique to us from what I know. And with that, we started to add lab caches into profile stats. But as it is right now, we're only adding it to our paying members. That might change in the future for yes, for the lab caches. It was the start, and we'll see where we go from there.
Excellent. I love doing the lab caches at those events. So it was kind of weird looking at my stats without having the lab caches, because it's like, why am I hundreds of caches off?
Oh, hundreds. Okay. I don't know many people have hundreds. I have a bit
It's
over
probably
100
not
myself,
that bad.
but yeah.
Well, there were 30 at Woodstock.
Yeah. And the last two that I went to had 20 apiece. So there's 70 in the last year.
Oh, yeah, that's. I don't think I've logged even 10 the last year. I've logged quite a few, maybe 150, but I more or less stopped logging them.
Yeah, well, it's pretty much just the mega and giga events that get the lab caches. Mm-hmm. So yes. It's not easy to get them if you don't have mega events, but I went to 2 mega events last year.
I usually skip them because they take quite a lot of time, and sometimes they're quite cumbersome, but not always. But they're very different at different events, so you shouldn't generalize it. But when we were in Czech Republic, do you hear that, Chris? Czech Republic.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't recognize that country.
Oh, they were in the local language, and yeah, we needed a lot of help to actually figure it out.
Okay, so lab caches, I have 103.
Oh, I have 90.
131. I win.
And you said you didn't have that many.
What? Well, Daryl said he had hundreds.
Yeah, well, I thought I was closer to 200, but yeah.
Come on, guys. It's not about numbers.
Unless you're 200, close to 200, 800s.
If you round up,
yeah, then it's a minimum amount to call it hundreds. If you
round up to the nearest 100.
Yeah.
Keepers of the cache flow say that they've never been to an event that has lab caches. So, we should probably actually do a show on lab caches with GCHQ at some point.
That would be
just
great.
To talk about what it is.
You should, and you should make some examples of what you have seen yourself.
Yeah, because and some of the stuff that I've heard about at lab caches, especially in Europe, are just astounding. They actually turn them into little performance arts bits, and
really?
Going caching. I think 1 year. I think they only did it 1 year, but they tied the lab caches to some of the escape room stuff.
Oh, I haven't even heard of that, and I'm from Europe.
Oh, going caching is unique because it is a 5-day event, really? Or is it 4 days? I think it's 4 days, but it starts with a story, and then you have to work towards solving this puzzle or whatever. The one that I did last year was spies. So you had to work on catching the spies, and you go through downtown Rome, Georgia, getting clues from the shops, and they have lab caches in there. They have private caches, not actual caches, but it's where you go kind of like a letterbox to stamp your cards to indicate that you were able to solve that puzzle, and gives you more clues that you need for the escape room. Oh. So you've got a couple of days leading up to the actual mega event, which is on Saturday. And then at the mega event, once you've solved everything, you get to go into the escape room and figure out how to get out of the escape room. So it's the 11th or 12th year, I think, that they're doing it now.
Oh, sounds great.
It is amazing. It is a truly amazing event. And I keep hearing the stories about everyone who's gone to even one seems to talk about it for years and years. And one of the big ones was the Indiana Jones, because the coin was used to activate the laser that pointed to where you had to go, just like the room in Indiana Jones with the staff and the medallion. Anyway, we're off onto mega events again.
Yeah.
We keep coming back to those.
I think it sounded impressive, at least. But
going caching is such a production, and it is definitely one that should be on everyone's bucket list as a cacher.
Yeah. When are they moving that concept to Europe?
Anytime you're ready to put it on.
Yeah, but
it takes a fairly good sized team, and they're doing the planning like all year round.
That sounds like a really big project to make everything fit together.
Yeah. And they're working right up to the day of the event. This last year they had some mechanical or some electronic issues when they started collecting everything for the escape room and put it in the warehouse to start testing. They blew power supplies and things and had to re-engineer the escape rooms live, essentially. And you didn't even really notice if you didn't know something was going on. They are really good about it.
I haven't done an escape room even, so to me it would be very new. I've heard a lot of escape rooms, so I know where it is, but I haven't done any.
I can come and nail your door shut on your house. It'd be pretty much the same idea.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking of how do we make a Project GC escape room?
Yeah.
I'm not even sure how that would work, but a virtual escape room for Project GC. You have to find everything in your virtual GPS, and or maybe just put everything in the virtual GPS that solves the puzzle. I don't know.
I don't know either. So can I talk about something else that's new since last time?
Please.
Yeah, I was also almost expecting that answer. We made something called new cache notifiers. And that might sound lame because you can get that from geocaching.com as well. So, but there's always a reason we make something. So what do you think is the least good part with the new cache notifiers you get from geocaching.com?
Well, for me, it's usually that there's some insane lag time in getting it from the email servers or whatever. By the time it's published, it's sometimes like an hour before I get the notification.
Oh, an hour? That sounds weird.
Yeah. It's usually not that bad, but for some reason on certain days, it seems to be really bad.
There can be a little lag, and I'm forced to open it in the geocaching app.
Well, that's a problem too.
Yeah, I can answer for one of those problems. But about the lag you get, that must be something with your email supplier. Are you using Gmail for that?
I am, and I think that's, when I get those, it's usually because there's a whole bunch of them being published. So I'm wondering if, it might not even be Gmail that's throttling. It could be that geocaching.com is throttling the outgoing connections so they don't get blacklisted.
Maybe. I always get my notifiers fairly fast, from what I know at least. And I use Google Apps, so it's Gmail as well.
Right.
But regarding what Chris said, that you get the new cache notifier and you can't open it in your app yet. I agree, that's pretty annoying. And I'm quite sure I know where it is. Because when someone is creating cache, it exists in their, let's call it normal data cluster that web accesses. It sends the email, but it still doesn't exist in the API. So I guess it's technically another environment that needs to be replicated to. And that usually seems to take like a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, your answers are wrong. You were supposed to answer that I have to set up a notifier for every cache type.
Oh, true, yes.
So I was trying to get you into that, but
the advantage to that, because I made it work to my advantage, is that I set different radiuses. So, like for the traditionals, it's very, very small.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was one of the base things I wanted myself to fix that. So the new cache notifiers of Project GC, they work in a bit of a different way. You could say that you pretty much get all notifiers in the whole world from the start, and then you filter it down instead. Instead of checking, I want traditionals, and then that's done, and you create a new notifier for unknowns. So in Project GC, you say, I want notifiers, and then you start limiting it. If you don't check any cache type, you get it for all cache types, obviously. You can add a radius. I think you have to add a radius, actually. No, you don't. But you have to choose either country or add a radius. to limit it a bit. So that's another thing. You can limit on country. That is pretty convenient if you live close to sea like I do. I mean, I think it's a less than 30-minute drive to Denmark over the bridge, but the cost is fairly high. It's not extreme, but it's too big for an FTF hunt. And then on ProGC you can filter on difficulty in terrain as well. So if you're only into tree climbing and want to FTF hunt those, you can filter on T5, for example. You can even filter.
That's really good.
Yeah, I like that personally. I had a friend who has been watching whole Sweden for T5s for quite some period.
Well, and I can see setting up different filters, and so you have anything that's like a less than 3, you only do like a 5-mile radius, but anything that's more than 3 is going to be less likely that you have all the FTF hounds going after it. So maybe that one you open up to like a 10-mile radius.
Exactly, that's the idea. You can even filter on size. I don't know why one would like to do that, but still, it's doable.
If you have some challenge or something that you're trying to fulfill and you need a particular size.
Yeah, sure. But you could also make a search every week or so. But anyway, and there are some more added features that the emails you get have pretty much all the information in the email.
So you don't have to go opening the link just to read whether it's something that you want to do.
Exactly. I have some stats in the top of the email saying this is the difficulty, this is the type, and so on. Pretty much like the original emails, but maybe the list is 3 times as long. You have a cache description in the email. You have a hint in the email, optional, because some people really wanted to opt it out from that. They didn't want to see the hint automatically. And then there's 2 other things. You can get what we call follow-ups. So if you have subscribed for new caches, you will get a new email for every log that is on that cache until it gets found. So if there's a note, you will get that, because maybe the cache owner writes a note, oh, I changed the coordinates or something is wrong here or similar.
Right. Or the reviewer retracts the publish.
Yeah, but that you probably won't be notified about, because then it stops existing in the API. So
interesting. Okay, good point.
So we probably won't get notified about that. So that's one other thing. We also have something we call Daily Digest, and that pretty much means that you get a daily email about all the new caches instead. It's for those who just want to be aware of what's in their surroundings, but don't really care about the FTF itself.
Sure, like you might not want to go 15, 20 miles for a cache, for an FTF, but you'd like to know that there's a new trail that's published, that far away.
For example, or maybe it's just, like you say, great trail, great series, something like that. You want to be aware because maybe you want to log it 3 months later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then the big downside of, actually we have several downsides. I must be honest with that. I think our new cache notifiers are great. I haven't used geocaching.coms for many years myself, because this has been a bit of an underground thing for myself while I developed it. But the big thing is that ours are slower. We already spoke about that their emails are going out before they even exist in the API. And we can send the notifiers until they're actually in the API. I can't promise the same stability as geocaching.com. Their notifiers has been a bit unstable for now and then as well, but I think the last years they've been working quite good, or really good in my opinion. ProGC can't promise the same quality. We don't have that big team, so on. We also have had to, we use an email service where we're paying, we have a fixed fee every month for a certain amount of emails. And we're on the level where we sometimes exceed that. And so that people don't go crazy with the notifiers, we have actually a limit on how many emails you can get per month as well. So it's a maximum 100 per day or 500 per month. After that, you won't get any more during that period.
So I would go through an entire month worth. Well, not quite. I'd go through about 60% of a month just with the caches that get published on New Year's Day around here.
Yeah, that depends on what radius you have on your watch, of course.
Right. But again, I don't want all those emails anyway. So
yeah, and
I assume there's a nice, easy way to turn them on and off. But is there a like date range that you could activate it?
No, no one has asked for filtering on dates actually. But yes, there is a way to just enable and disable them. So on the 30th of December, you could just go in and say, "Hey, disable my notifiers because I'm just going to be drunk anyway." And you definitely shouldn't drive
like something. Yeah, the drunk caching part, though. You know, you take an Uber to the cache. That right there is YouTube worthy. But I could definitely see a YouTube series of drunk caching.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. Can't you make a show like that?
I think we could. And it just kind of takes the drunken bee dance to a whole new level.
Yeah. And there's one thing that has been planned to add to these new cache notifiers for a long time. Actually, it's been one of my original ideas, and I really love it, and I think the FDF hunters will love it. And that's something we call dynamic new cache notifiers. So imagine, we talked about earlier that you could have different watch zones for the trackable rescue system, for example. But maybe you don't want to get notified about new caches in 3 different places of the United States. What you want is new cache notifiers for where you are, right?
Right.
So you're driving to GeoGearHeads, and you would like Project GC's notifiers to follow you.
Oh.
And that's what's planned. So you have a little application in your phone that sends in your coordinates to Project GC regularly, and the new cache notifiers gets updated.
Cool.
That's the plan. I think some people will love it, especially those really FDF freaks.
Ooh, I would love push notifications. I assume it's not going to do that, though.
It could. Long run, it could. We could add support for sending notifiers to something else than email. That would actually be better for us in a way, because that might be able to be cheaper for us. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. But I'd love to be able to hit that and then have it open in the app of choice when you go to the cache. You know, open that would right there be a lifesaver.
Yeah, as the plan is right now, we won't build our own application for Android because we don't have that expertise. I've been playing around with this dynamic thing myself, and I use an application for Android that I don't remember the name of, but its only purpose is to you can configure this application a lot, and its only purpose is to actually send your GPS coordinates to a custom link on the times you say and so on. So I think that would work out great. And if I remember correctly, that application exists for iPhone as well, but I'm actually unsure at the moment. Otherwise, we have to find other ways there. Maybe there's another application.
Or maybe partnerships with the guys like Cachely to build in the push notifications and updaters and all that kind of stuff right into the apps that people are already using.
Yeah, I wonder if you want that, though, because people usually don't want such applications to be any battery hoggers. And,
yeah, that is a big issue. You'd have to be able to turn it off or something.
So maybe it's actually better to have it as a standalone application, because then you don't get bad reviews because someone didn't understand the concept and that's hogging a battery and so on.
True. Team Demp, though, is asking if there's a way to filter out the attributes such as boat on the notifiers.
There isn't, but I'm very open to that, actually. I think it's a great suggestion, and maybe it shouldn't have been there from the start, but if there's any filtering that should be added, it's probably attributes.
Yeah, he's looking for he needs specific difficulty in terrain, but not if it requires the boat.
Yeah, I get that. And I can also get the opposite, because you really don't want notifiers if it requires a boat, if you don't have one, obviously. But if you have one, maybe it's a really good FTF chance, because not everyone else has it.
True.
On the other hand, I think I don't know how it's where you guys live, but I have like a lot of geocaches with the boat attribute that don't really require boats.
Yeah,
Sometimes you can do it by swimming. Sometimes a pair of waders is enough. Things like that. So,
well, we have a lot of them that require a boat, but not in the winter.
Yeah, true. We have that sometimes as well. I think I logged 3 this winter.
I didn't log any myself.
Yeah.
Wow, we are already over the 45-minute mark. So, anything else that we should talk about?
Oh, my list is long, but no.
Yeah, let's go.
Nothing important.
But we want to let you get back to sleep.
Yeah, but now I'm awake. What the fuck?
Oh, okay.
So when I'm sleeping, you need to get me up. And now when I'm awake, I should go to bed.
We just need to totally disrupt your life as best we possibly can.
You're just mean.
Exactly.
I can mention one thing that's fairly fast. That's pretty new. As you might know, regarding the challenge checkers we spoke about earlier, we have something called challenge exceptions. The problem was that there's a lot of geocaches who looks like a challenge because it's a mystery cache and it has the name challenge in the cache name. And there's also the opposite. There are some geocaches that don't look like a challenge, but there actually is what they call an ALR, additional logging requirement in the description. So to be able to create statistics around challenges, we created something called challenge exceptions. And this is a system where some chosen moderators, or actually those who have applied lately, they can add a cache to an exception list. And then all the other moderators puts their vote. Is this a challenge or is it not? And so on. So I think GeoGearHeads is starting to get a really accurate list of how many challenges there actually are in the world. We currently have almost 2,000 exceptions. And that's a lot because if I recall correctly, there are I have a number here. There is around 22,000 challenges in the world. So 2,000 exceptions is 10% of that.
Yeah, that's a pretty high number for something that should be a little bit more cut and dry.
Yeah, in one of the cases, it's things that actually break the rules. That's when it isn't called challenge, for example, and so on. But that's not the whole truth. For some countries, it has been standard that they use the localized word. I don't think that's HQ's intent. But I've seen it's very common in Finland and France, for example. But then on the other hand, you can always publish a mystery cache. That's a real mystery. You have to do something to figure out where the final is. That has the word challenge in the name. That's still according to the rules. And that's also a thing that goes into the exceptions today.
Right.
So you shouldn't see it as 10% of the challenges actually are breaking rules, because that's not true. And that's a big majority of exceptions. That's things that actually looks like a challenge, but isn't.
Sure. Well, and there's always the grandfathered. So even if it is technically breaking the rule, it's grandfathered, so it's not actually breaking the rule.
Yeah, and those are between there's 10, 20 of these challenge exceptions where our moderators really doesn't agree. I can look at the top one. We wrote about it on Facebook a week ago too. The top one has, let's see, it's 37 votes if it's a challenge or not. 19 people have voted it's a challenge. 18 have voted it's not a challenge.
Ooh.
So it's not always that easy.
No. Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that a challenge would be that much in question.
No, in some cases it is. It really is. Well,
all right. Well, thank you very much. We've got Starcacher saying that we need to schedule episode 7 for Project GC already.
Oh, we need.
Yeah, he already wants another episode.
That's great to hear. Can you move it to another time?
How about another day?
Maybe we need to do it before work on a Thursday.
Yeah, or maybe we should do it in the middle of the night for you guys.
Well, it's getting close to the middle of the night for me.
Yeah, you guys had a time difference as well, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I'm on East Coast, so it's 10 a.m. or 10 a.m., 10 p.m. here, and Chris is out on the West Coast, so
It's
he's
6
he's
p.m.,
got a
7 p.m.
leisurely 7 p.m. right now.
Yeah, okay. So we're
So
actually
leisurely.
Yeah, so we're quite spread out actually.
Yeah. Yeah, the joy of geocaching is that it's a global activity and we have to deal with all of these time zones when we want to do something like this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been great to be here again. I love you guys. It's very easy to talk to.
Yeah, we love having you on, and we'll definitely schedule that episode 7, but we'll give you some time to recover from this one before we do it again.
You mean so I can go to sleep again, and then you'll call in 2 hours and wake me up?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like next week, we'll try to do it at a little less convenient time. We'll push it back like half an hour. Does that sound good?
I don't know if that's better or worse actually. If we move it 2 hours either way, I think it's better.
Okay, so we have to move it less than an hour
For you guys to like it. I want to
disrupt
move
your life.
Yeah. I mean, if it was at 1 a.m., I would just stay up. If it was at 6 a.m., I could just go up earlier. But 3 a.m., that's really in the middle of the night.
Well, I got to look at the time changes again. We might actually be able to do something like that just with daylight savings time shifts.
Yeah. But
I hate that.
Yeah, it's in cases like this, it's an issue because especially since not everyone switches time zone at the same date.
Exactly. Yeah, you've got different. It's especially fun when we're dealing with people in Australia and New Zealand because they're opposite. So we get like a 3-hour shift at some points, if I remember.
Oh, yeah, that's
depending on who's in daylight savings time and who's not.
Very inconvenient.
You'd think it would be just 2, but if for some reason I want to say it was 3 hours, and you think, okay, if that's the case, why isn't it 4?
Yeah,
but it's just really bizarre.
Yeah.
Anyway,
great that the Google
yet another rat hole.
I like that the Google Calendar can tell you in your local time at least.
Absolutely.
So you're actually sure about the time because these episodes I always check it like 3-4 times okay. Did I recall this correctly? Yeah.
Yep. And we do have on the upcoming show page the link to the timeconverter.com, I think it is, which is the service that geocaching.com uses, and that's where I found out about it.
Can you put in a date there as well? So if you're okay. So
it's a pretty cool website that probably should be a pick at some point for the patrons, because it does do a whole bunch of really cool things, including some of those like event finders, so you can like ask when people would be available on that site. And it deals with the time zones for you.
I can tell you something funny as well.
Go ahead.
A reason I really love your show or loving being with you guys. I was in UK last summer, and they speak English, so it's great. It feels like it would be very easy to be there and talk to everyone, and it was. And then there came 2 representatives from HQ and spoke with me. I can't really recall. I think it was Chris Rock, one of them, and it must have been his wife as well.
Oh, okay.
So I met
Chris Ronan, also known as Rock Chalk.
Yeah,
and they cache, I think, under the same name. Does that sound right, Chris? Number 1?
I believe so.
The funny thing, at least, was when I met them, I somehow got this feeling, these 2 are really easy to understand. That's how influenced Sweden and most of Europe is by American movies and all your accent. Because I started to realize I actually have to make my brain work harder to understand UK English than US English. I had no idea myself, but it was like I could relax when I was listening to those.
Interesting.
Wow. Yeah, I totally get it, though.
Yeah, I've never heard anyone else speak about that effect before, but it just hit me. like, yeah, I was got really calm suddenly. It was very easy to listen to him. It was just like speaking to an actor in a movie that I'm watching.
So Chris Ronan is acting like a geocacher.
Something like that.
Okay, so that's what we're going to take away from it.
Yeah, if that's your conclusion, then yes. Maybe he will move to Hollywood soon.
Ooh, there you go. His next career is going to be a professional Hollywood geocacher.
Yeah,
Ooh, not sure how you do that, but I think I like the idea.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again.
Yeah.
And we'll have the link to Project GC on the website and our show notes so that you can find it easily. But just a reminder that we still haven't heard from several of the winners of the DuckTales tags from last week's episode. We need to hear from you guys by the 17th, or we're going to put those back in the pool and give them away to someone else. So make sure, if you were one of the folks that has not received your DuckTales tag yet and won one on last week's show, you've got to email us. And also, patrons, we have a number of you who have not responded on Patreon. So if you want those GeoGearHeads tags, let us know. You should have gotten the message on patreon.com. Just head over there and check your message center.
Daryl, are you saying you're going to put the ducks back in the water if nobody claims them?
Absolutely. Okay. And you know what else I'm going to say is next week is a randomized show. Yes. We're going to give one of those DuckTales tags to someone who sends us a question that we use on the show. And that includes the folks who have
right now.
Yeah. And we have a bunch of people who've already sent in the questions. So you're already on the list. So you might get a DuckTales tag.
So, Daryl, you said next week we are doing a randomized show. The week after that, we're talking cruise caching with Subway Mark. That's a lot of fun. June 29th, we're doing regional organizations with Geo Monkey Tiger. That's from the Georgia Geocachers Association, and Merlin 1392 from Michigan Geocaching Association. And July 5th, we're doing conversions. Wait, is this a religious show? Maybe not. I think you should find out. It's with GSM ×2.
Check the Cachemaniacs website at cachemaniacs.com for more on the GeoGearHeads, including show notes for this and all of our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us feedback by emailing geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com or through social media. Your support helps keep the Cachemaniacs shows coming. Please consider becoming a patron through the link on our website to support the Cachemaniacs shows. GeoGearHeads is produced by Chris Huffenauer and Daryl Wanberg. This show is copyright 2018 by Daryl Wanberg. All rights reserved.
Cash with a Cachemaniac.